I'm ready.
John, coming up from Crown Point, Indiana. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so you've spent a long time in this business to this point, but what got you started? Why'd you want to become a financial advisor?
I'm not sure that I did necessarily. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family, and I was given a lot of freedom as a child, a lot of independence, a lot of autonomy. My parents let me fail. They gave me opportunities to also win big. And becoming a financial advisor, from everything else that I had looked at, gave me the greatest opportunity to really have that independence and also some control over my income and the revenue that I was creating. But I think the even more important question is, why am I still a financial advisor?
Yeah.
Because this career, as I think about it, has almost given me an opportunity to move up like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you will.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm at this self-actualization point where I get the greatest level of enjoyment and satisfaction when I'm serving my clients and asking them really good questions and helping them to create a vision for their future.
That's really good.
Yep.
That's really good. Has there been, and in that vein, has there been a client impact story? I know you got a long career, so you've probably got many, but has there been one that stood out to you where this was, just a super impactful life lesson, or maybe the guidance that you provided was just so immensely helpful?
There's one that has evolved over the years that really came to a climax literally just a couple of weeks ago. When I was a relatively new advisor, I was in my 20s, and I was referred to a couple in Indianapolis, also in their 20s. And they had a baby at the time, and I met with them, and they were really challenging to make clients, but they had great habits. They were great earners. They were good people. They were just skeptical. The husband in particular was very skeptical. So they did become clients. Primarily, we had done a significant amount of life insurance planning with them, being a young family with a baby. And shortly thereafter, the husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer. He had a brain cancer. And I'll never forget him calling me, and he was really animated. He was a great guy, tons of energy, very motivated. And he used some explicitives when he told me this, but he said, "Dawson, thank God that you and my wife are smarter than I am, and you got me to move forward with this stuff. If you ever need an advocate, I'm your guy." And I said, "Man, do you mean that?" And he said, "Yes, I do." And at the time, I was in a leadership role with Northwestern. And I said, "We actually have our annual planning meeting next week for our new advisors. Would you speak to them about your story and the way this has impacted you?" And he agreed to do that. And ultimately, he passed away, and my relationship with his wife continued to deepen. She became remarried to just an incredible guy. And unfortunately, her daughter that she had with her first husband, who passed away just about a month ago from the same cancer.
Oh man!
And it was really emotional. Clearly for them, but even for me. And she called me a couple of weeks ago, Josh, and she said, "John, I want you to know that I realize you're my advisor, but more than that, I view you as my friend." And I have several experiences similar to that, and that's the most moving one that comes to mind. But it's a very moving business.
But moved me just hearing the story. So yeah, I can only imagine being in that seat, because I've been in that seat before, but not in that exact same story. What's one thing you wish everyone knew about money?
Can I break the rules and give you two?
Sure.
So my faith has become really the centerpiece of my life here, not somewhat frequently, recently. And I've learned that money is not ours. Nothing is ours.
Yep.
God has given us our children. He has given us our money, and it is our privilege and our responsibility to be a good steward of those gifts and resources that God has given to us. And as I've learned this in my head, what I've also learned in my heart is that when I view something as not mine, I can manage it much more objectively, right? But when I'm holding on to something really, really tight, when I'm gripping it, it's kind of like golf, right? If I'm gripping the club too hard, I'm not going to hit a very good shot.
I know that very well.
Yeah. So, realizing that it's not ours, it's God's, but we do have a responsibility to manage it. And to that point, the second thing that I would say is that I think most people overemphasize the impact that external factors are going to have on their financial future. Like the markets, what's happening with the stock market, who's being elected as president, what's going on with taxes. And I try to help people realize as kindly as I can that the number one indicator of their financial future are their habits. Mm-hmm. And that's not what they're picking up when they're watching Mad Money with Jim Cramer or whatever it may be. But those would be the two things, Josh.
That's awesome. So you've been to a lot of development events over your career as a leader, as a producer, mm-hmm. and you were skeptical to come up here.
I was.
And so ultimately, I'll ask you, I'm going to break the rules and ask you two questions. So ultimately, why did you choose to come mm-hmm. up to Rhino Boot Camp? And then secondly, what has been the biggest impact for you in these 2 days that you can go home with?
Well, I want to first answer why I came here, because people want me to go all kinds of places.
Yeah.
Right? And I came here because there was an introduction from somebody who I have a level of trust and respect for, but also because when you called me, you were vulnerable and told me your story. Mm. And I felt like there was some connection between some of the ways I have felt and some of the ways that you have felt. So your vulnerability as a leader is what got me to come to the Rhino Boot Camp as opposed to going somewhere else. But my belief on going to seminars and conferences in general is twofold. Number one is I'm a huge believer that we become like the people we hang around.
Yeah, 100.
And we have a small, intimate group here, and every person here sacrificed in some way, shape, or form financially to write a check to be here. And number two, I don't like leaving my family anymore.
Yeah.
I like being home with my wife and kids. And so I'm with a group of people who are willing to make a sacrifice in some way, shape, or form to be here. And those are the type of people that I want to surround myself with.
Yeah.
And finally, we don't know what we don't know. And I'm with a firm that I believe does a really good job of providing me with resources and information and training opportunities, but I also don't want to live solely in that bubble.
Yeah.
I want to hear other perspectives along the way.